So, Steve, I know one of the first topics that you kind of wanted to get down, and we've got a bunch of guys here that are gun nuts, all right? All four of us here. So, why don't you walk us through some of the lesser-known gun laws that pertain to carrying? Because that's a big question.
All right, very well. Well, there has been a relatively new development in Utah law in February of 2021, so about 2.5 years ago. Governor Cox signed into law House Bill 60, which is what is commonly known as constitutional carry. So most people who have any familiarity with guns and gun owner issues are familiar with the concealed carry permit, which is issued by the Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Criminal Identification. And they still issue concealed carry permits. However, at the present time and since February of 2021, it is lawful to carry a concealed handgun on your person or in your vehicle so long as you are not a restricted person. Brief examples of restricted persons: people with a felony conviction, people with misdemeanor or felony domestic violence conviction, people who are habitual users of illegal narcotics. Hunter Biden, sorry.
Can't carry.
Yeah.
Here in Utah.
And if you throw it in a dumpster out back, that's still illegal too.
He can get away with it.
But if you're not a restricted person, you can legally carry a concealed, under the constitutional carry theory, you can carry a loaded firearm on your person or in your vehicle. Now, having said that, it's important to also note there are some areas in the state of Utah, such as school grounds, such as national parks, where it is not legal to carry in that manner. And so, for example, if you're driving in your car, you have a loaded handgun with you. If you drive onto school grounds and you exit your vehicle, you may have a problem. So people should be aware of that. But constitutional carry, of course, is it is a victory for law-abiding gun owners, I think. And so,
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I remember that I was a police officer for about 8 years, and there was a certain level of readiness that the gun could be in back then. This is a minute ago. Is that still the case? Like there has to be 2 motions before you can, if you carry the gun on constitutional law, can you have it? Can it be a chambered bullet? Can you have, like, what level of readiness can you have the weapon?
Yeah, that's a great question. Under the constitutional carry theory, the gun can be loaded, which the legal definition is that it has a round in the firing position.
Wow.
Okay. Now, something to note. Okay, it's not requirement to constitutional carry, as we said, to have the concealed carry permit. However, if you're going to carry a long gun in a vehicle and also have the long gun be loaded, namely having a round in the firing position, and that's also true of muzzleloaders. If the muzzleloader is charged muzzleloading rifle, then it is unlawful to do that unless you have the concealed carry permit.
Okay.
So,
really?
loaded handgun in a vehicle or on your in a vehicle under constitutional carry theory, but a long gun, it would be necessary to have the concealed carry permit, to have the long gun in the vehicle, and also have a round in the firing position. Now, if there's 2 mechanical movements, okay, such as pulling the hammer back on a revolver, okay, and then pulling the trigger in order to get it fired, or in order to have it fire, that is not considered to be loaded. So you need 2 mechanical movements, okay, in order to get the gun to fire, in order for the gun to be
Defined as loaded.
defined as unloaded legally.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
And the same is true for open carry. Well, we're on the topic. So 3 categories, basic categories of carrying we're talking about. We talk about the constitutional carry, the open carry. Okay, open carry is also legal in the state of Utah. It is what it sounds like. You are carrying a firearm, and it's observable to other parties. Open carry is legal in the state of Utah, but it cannot be loaded in the sense that there is a round in the firing position. As we said, 2 mechanical movements in order to get the gun to fire. And I can only imagine, I'd have to speculate somewhat without going back and reading all the transcripts of the Utah Senate, what the rationale was that for. But it seems to me that the reason would be law enforcement comes, they see a person carrying a gun on the street. If that person has a nefarious purpose, it would only make sense that that gun is loaded. Okay, a person who's simply carrying it for protection, two mechanical movements, take them a second. I can imagine that's for the benefit of law enforcement, or so it seems to me.
I like how laws can be applied to people who don't abide the law. Like, you know what I mean? That is to protect. I think you're right. I absolutely agree. But if someone has a nefarious mindset, they don't really care what the two mechanical movements are, do they?
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's a debate that will go on forever. Is the solution to problems with guns a good guy with a gun? And we won't try to unpack that today, I imagine.
Yeah.
Do the rules for people that do have a concealed carry, do those still apply like for those restricted areas?
Yes. Yes. So the concealed carry, okay, so the advantage of still having the permit, although it's not necessary to have it anymore under the constitutional carry theory, one advantage is you can carry the loaded long gun in your vehicle, okay, with a round in the firing position if you have the concealed carry. Another advantage of having the concealed carry, if you travel and you want to carry in your travel, I believe there are 38 states that have reciprocity with the state of Utah for the concealed carry. So my advice to anyone who's doing that is make certain that you check the gun laws in the state where you'll be. Make sure that
Don't go to those other 20 states.
make sure that not only is this the state you're going to has a reciprocity arrangement with the state of Utah or whatever state it is that issued your concealed carry permit, but check and see if there are other restrictions that are not identical to the restrictions in the state of Utah. Familiarize yourself with concealed carry laws of the state where you'll be. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to these kind of things, and when the bad situations happen, that's usually what's missing is common sense.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have common sense if you have a gun. That's my opinion.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And keep your drugs in a different room.
Yeah. Which raises another very interesting point. Okay. As a category of restricted persons we didn't talk about, and it is well. Let me unpack this a little bit. Rewind a little bit. Second Amendment. Okay. There is not Second Amendment protection for anyone who's in the process of committing a crime, okay, which would include, of course, carrying illegal narcotics on your person. If you have illegal narcotics on your person and you also have a gun on your person, it could be the narcotics that you have. Now I think a small amount of methamphetamine in the state of Utah is now a Class A misdemeanor. The legislature made that change years ago, so that people whose only problem with the law is their drug habit, that they don't have the felony conviction, will help them get employed. I think that was the purpose of making that change in the law. But if you have methamphetamine or any other contraband narcotic and a firearm, it's a felony. Okay, and people should be aware of that. One way to get in a lot of trouble really fast is to either be intoxicated or be in possession of intoxicating substances and also have a gun. One way that frequently happens, people on the deer hunt, sitting around the campfire, having a few shots of whiskey, having a few beers. Game warden comes to check permits, to check tags, and notices that people are drinking, that they seem to be impaired, and they also have their guns. They're going to get a ticket, and they might lose their guns. They might lose their hunting privileges, at least for a time. So people should be aware of that. If you're going to have a drink on the hunt, I suppose if you're having it before bed around the campfire and you're going to be able to sleep it off plenty well, that's not a problem. But my advice would be put the gun in the car, put it in the case, lock the car,
Lock the case.
Put the bullets away separately, and then I can't imagine that there would be a problem if you're having a few drinks around the campfire. But of course, my unsolicited advice, which I realize people don't want even from me, would be that, you know, if you're on a hunting trip, it would be really poor judgment to consume alcohol to the point that you know, there would be a problem, say if that you would get a DUI if you were to get in a vehicle, something like that. That's just poor judgment.
I've often thought about after being an officer for 8 years, I've thought about being a game warden and rolling up on a campsite full of buddies who have been drinking, who are armed. Like, that's terrifying. There's a lot of other things. I would rather pull over a low rider in West Valley than roll up to a campsite full of drunk hunters.
Yeah.
That would be I don't know if I would. Just have a good night, fellas.
You don't hear a lot about that.
You really don't, but I can see how it could be a problem as per the law goes. But
That's something I've never thought about either.
It'd be a terrifying job.
Yeah.
That's not where I'd want to be, because you're wrong no matter what.
Yep.
Yeah.
And usually the people that are out hunting, they know how to use the guns that they have.
Most of the time.
and
Pretty well.
how to aim them and everything like that. But they're also, that's usually a testosterone outlet is the
especially
hunt.
with your all your buddies
And you're drunk.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
testosterone
terrifying.
flowing.
Yeah. Yikes. Interesting stuff. So as these laws have changed, have you in your profession seen the change in the face of the crimes that you're looking at? Are these things that you have to weigh regularly? As I had the gun, it was 2 mechanical movements away, or does it really weigh in very much to your business?
Well, you know, another good question. I have not had any cases, and I do, you know, hundreds of cases a year. I've not had a case where people have been charged with a violation of the open carry law or the constitutional carry law. I've not seen that yet. It doesn't mean that it's coming. But on that topic, what I do see, common problems that gun owners have that get them in trouble generally and jeopardize their gun rights. One is what is known in the Utah State Code as colloquially as brandishing a firearm. So in other words, you know, the question is, okay, if you simply have a firearm and someone else you know, is able to observe the firearm, they can see you have the firearm. You know, is there a possibility that the circumstances may create a problem for the person possessing the firearm? Something that often happens in the midst of a road rage incident or other type of an incident. One driver who happens to have a gun with them will show the gun to a person that they're having an argument with. Perhaps the subjective intent is to warn the other person that they don't want to pursue a physical altercation because you know, their partner in the argument is armed. But what the law does, the prosecutors at least, they construe that as presenting the gun in a threatening manner. So brandishing is a Class A misdemeanor under Utah law. It's a fairly serious crime. Misdemeanors in Utah are A, B, and C in that order. It can even result in a jail sentence of up to 364 days. But it's a common thing that people who are just in a heated argument will make the other person aware that they're armed by presenting the gun. And the theory under which that's prosecuted is that simply presenting it under those circumstances is an implied threat. And many people who are otherwise, I think, law-abiding and decent people make that mistake.
Yeah.
On the force continuum, they teach you in the police academy. That's the one step before death.
Action.
If you show someone the gun, that's when I was in the business, that's what they would consider that, as like you are giving them a lethal threat. It's
Right.
not just like, hey, back off.
Yeah.
I know I've definitely thought about doing this
Yeah.
a couple times in my life. I'm like, man,
That one
This
guy on the
guy's
highway
such a-
that cut Roger off. Yeah,
prime
he almost got
example.
from everybody.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, boys, I think in my experience with law enforcement, if you take your gun out, you're killing somebody.
Yes.
Right.
Period. There's no other reason to take your gun out.
And
And
that's-
when you take the gun out, the intention is not to even wound them.
Right.
No, it's overtime.
It's go time, and so that is the thing that I really liked. I've taken the concealed course a few times, and that's the one thing that I really appreciated about it, is they reiterate that over and over again. This isn't show and tell. This
Right.
is I'm taking this out to protect my life, period.
Period.
Interesting point that you raised, that even for police officers, okay, they don't take their gun out randomly, haphazardly. Okay, it's a very intentional thing, and it has to be done correctly.
On the force continuum.
Yes, and I think I just want to clarify, to be charged and even convicted with the crime of brandishing, it's not necessary to point the weapon. It's not necessary that the weapon be loaded. It's not even necessary that it be a real gun. If it's a facsimile of a gun, if it would appear to the other party that this may in fact be a real gun, the fact that it's a BB gun or even less of a gun, a stage facsimile or something like that, the elements of brandishing are still met.
Wow, lethal threat.
Well, it's even like the gangster move, right? You can just pull your shirt up like that.
Yes.
That's brandishing, right?
That would be brandishing because you've displayed the firearm in a threatening manner. Now, ultimately, that question would be up to a jury. If a person, defended themselves and they proceeded all the way to trial, the jury would answer that question. But the jury would get written instructions about what the crime is. So the possibility of the jury looking at those circumstances and saying, "Yeah, no, I'm not concerned," it's not like that. Okay, but a lot of people don't understand that when people are impaneled on a jury, they get many written instructions instructing them what the law is, and they're expected to follow the instructions. They can determine the facts as they believe them to be, but they must follow the instructions that they're given. So it's very serious business when it comes to that level.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. Okay, so you kind of mentioned you got constitutional carry, you've got open carry, and then concealed carry. Okay, there's a lot of questions for maybe those that aren't in the know. You have constitutional carry, which means you can have it. What is the advantage, or what would your recommendation be in having the concealed carry permit?
Well, one advantage of, we talked about some of the advantages, such as reciprocity arrangements with the majority of states. Another advantage, I suppose, is when you go and purchase a new firearm, that having the concealed carry permit will streamline that process.
Does it provide any protection that the constitutional carry does not, in terms of your rights and whatnot in having that gun?
Well, it does, as I mentioned, allows you to have a loaded long gun in a vehicle. But as far as the places that you can take a weapon, or the manner in which you can carry or transport the weapon, such as in a vehicle, on your person, someplace like that, there are no important differences that I can think of. I think the important differences, I think you leave the state and go to a state with reciprocity, you still have protection. You can carry a loaded long gun in a vehicle. Excuse me, which brings me to another point I don't want to forget to make. Not all gun people are hunters, I understand that, but of course many are. There's a lot of misconception I've noticed in the state of Utah about whether the concealed carry permit or constitutional carry would allow a person to carry a loaded handgun, meaning round in the firing position, or long gun while they're actually hunting. Okay, if you are actually hunting, then the concealed carry permit and also constitutional carry does not allow you to carry a loaded gun in the vehicle while you are hunting. That's still unlawful.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's a separate theory. That's under the umbrella of we want to put limitations on firepower so that hunting is sportsmanlike.
Right.
People
Right.
are not shooting from loaded vehicles at wild game, or stepping out of the vehicle and immediately firing. And I think there's also probably a safety consideration involved in that. But yes, a lot of people are under the misperception rather, that they can carry a loaded gun in their vehicle while they're hunting. And I should probably say in or on, because the cases that I've seen, usually it's people who are on four-wheelers, on ATVs, who encounter law enforcement at a checkpoint, or they're checking for valid license and things like that, and then they have rifle in the scabbard on the ATV and around in the firing position, they get a ticket for that.
What is that ticket? How much does it affect their ability to hunt or have the guns?
You know what? I'm embarrassed. I would have to review that, but I think it'd be a misdemeanor charge, but it could, possibly affect your hunting rights, at least in the short term. So people should just be aware of that.
Yeah.
And some people are looking for an unfair advantage in hunting, and I know that from a lot of experience in representing people who are charged with violating game laws, but in order to get the advantage in the hunt, it's just not worth it, and it's just also not worth the safety risk.
It's two movements. It's not. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous argument in my opinion. Right.
Yeah, right.
So,
Right.